Welcome back to the channel. In the last video you saw me talking to a seller. Here's the footage.
If I go and if we go ahead and drop it that 10%,
Yeah.
would that be a done deal?
And guess what? That deal has closed, but not without challenges. So today I'm actually going to talk about what happened with that deal and what learning lessons we can all take from that particular deal. Just a little backstory to that deal. My girlfriend and I were going to Japan, and right before I went to Japan, I found this deal. The guy was saying that this old lady lives in the property. They don't care about the property anymore. They just want to sell, get rid of it. I was like, okay, cool. But nevertheless, we communicated with him over time, and I was about to go see the property before we left to Japan. And what happened is that as I was about to go see the property, he texted me and said, hey, I'm sorry, the previous buyer has not canceled the contract yet. They're saying they need a little more time in order to do something with this. And the crazy part is, he never told me this until the moment that I was about to go see the property. So I was very upset, right? We were about to leave to Japan. I would love to get another deal on the contract and sell it and all that stuff, but it is what it is. You know, I was like, I'm just gonna let it go. I tried to enjoy my 2-week trip to Japan, which was absolutely awesome. So when I came back, I actually checked in with him and I said, hey, is the property still under contract? Have you closed? What's going on? He replied to me saying, the guys are stalling. I don't think they're gonna close. I'm gonna let you know in a week. 4 days later, he messaged me saying, hey, they're falling out of contract. We can give it a shot with you. Just to give you a little backstory about the property, I saw that it was listed on the MLS for $500,000. Then when I went to Japan, I actually saw that it was advertised on Investor Lift by another wholesaler for $440,000. Back then, I thought the problem was that the fact that the wholesaler was thinking the ARV was $810,000, which was absolutely incorrect. The ARV is about $730,000, $720,000 to $730,000. It's a big difference, right? So there's almost $100,000 difference. And honestly, I was like, okay, well, this is the reason why I didn't sell, because they were overselling the deal, thinking the ARV is incorrect. And that is going to be our lesson number one. Know your numbers. Honestly, I understand that when you're starting wholesaling, you're not going to be perfect about your ARVs and your repair costs and etc. So if you did a mistake of $100,000, so that's about 15% of the property value, you overvalue the property by, you didn't know your numbers. And that's my true and honest opinion, is that you need to know better. You need to run comps better. Make sure you're not looking at pool homes. Make sure you're looking at homes within the last 6 to 12 months, preferably 6. So all those things, right? So you need to make sure you're doing this correctly. So either way, right? So I was like, okay, well, the wholesaler didn't have the numbers correct, so I'm going to go ahead and offer a price of $380,000 because I think I can sell it for $395,000. It'll make a $15,000 assignment fee, and I'll be happy, and I can walk away from this one. So everything made sense, right? So I got another contract for $380,000. I actually gave it to a disposition company in New Western at $390,000 because they felt like they could make it work and sell for $400,000. So that seemed like a good deal for everyone. Here's the kicker though. I guess a wholesaler has contracted this property 2 times. So not only they were advertising with the real estate agent for $500,000, they advertised with wholesalers 2 times. And one of the times they were advertised at $440,000 besides the investor lift, right? It was actually with the disposition company, with New Western. They were advertising at $440,000, still couldn't sell it. So we were thinking, okay, well, if we could advertise for $400,000, it would be great. Not really the case. It didn't work out that way. So even the numbers made sense in my mind. We came across an issue that I've never dealt with before, is that the property is in what's called a historic area. Properties in historic area are more desirable, of course, for homeowners, but for contractors and for flippers, there's quite some issues that can come along with historic properties because they have to undergo multiple different permitting processes that can actually prolong their flipping process, and that can cost them a lot more money because time is money, especially when you're flipping properties. Even though my ARV was on point, the problem was that my repair estimation cost actually had to go up because not only their timeline is expanding, what also tends to happen is that the review committee, they actually ask you to keep the historical look of the property. What that means is that you have to spend more money on specific types of outside work. Specifically goes for, like, you know, type of siding and windows and all that good stuff, right? That stuff has to be kept historic looking. So it's quite of a problem for a lot of flippers. So a lot of flippers don't even like touching historic properties, what I've learned. But the ones that do, they need it at a cheaper discount because it's something that they need need to deal with. So, okay, all right, so we're getting feedback, and here's what's happening. Now, here's the problem. We're in Christmas time. It was like a week before, a week or 2 weeks before Christmas, and people are starting to slow down. I'm not gonna say that no one is buying, but definitely I see buyers being very, very slow. So that, of course, was very difficult. That didn't help the situation. So a couple of things were not working out. First of all, obviously, because New Western has advertised it before, other wholesalers and other buyers, have seen the property. Therefore, they were not super fascinated by the property. And that happens even if the property was advertised for a higher price before. Sometimes when you advertise property the second time, it may not be as enticing for our investors. And this is another learning lesson for everyone, is that a lot of times investors, when they feel like they're the only ones who is interested in the property, or they feel like there's no competition, they'll be like, well, why is no one buying it? It means it's not that good of a property. And that's something you have to do. That's something that disposition companies do very well. They create a sense of urgency. They create a sense of competition between investors. I don't like to participate in competition. When sellers tell me I have other investors, I'll still give my offer. I'm not going to chase around and give higher offer just to get the property. But, some investors will and some investors do. So learn how to create a sense of urgency, and you'll be able to do that only if you have backup options, or you feel like you have backup options. It's very hard to bluff when you don't have any other investors or any other buyers interested in the property besides the one you're talking to. And so after New Western dropped the property to me, I knew that I'm on my own again, and what I had to do is I realized that I had to have a really difficult conversation with the seller. That's the conversation that you guys saw in the previous video, when I had to negotiate $38,000 off the purchase price. And that worked out. That worked out awesome. It was like a 15-minute conversation. I was able to give her my facts and talk with her, and I was able to provide with her confidence that at this price it will be great and it will be good to go. So after negotiating and bringing down the price by 10%, I started advertising it myself, because New Western said that, hey, we have buyers, but they're not giving us a price. I did tell them, hey, I had a discount, but I just didn't want to rely on them anymore, and I kept going on my own and kept looking for buyers. But I found this wholesaler lady that actually had a couple of her own buyers, and they were super interested. Again, great, worked out. I was super happy. I was able to put it on the contract with a buyer. I'm splitting the fee with a wholesaler. And that lesson number 3 is that don't sway away with working with wholesalers. If you're a direct-to-seller wholesaler, I understand the feeling of I don't want to split my fee with other wholesalers. Totally get it. I understand, and sometimes I used to feel that way as well. The problem is that sometimes you do need the buyers, right? And if you can be the wholesaler that has all the leads and you have all the buyers, you can make all the money in the world, right? You don't need no one. It's just you and your team and doing everything. The problem is that's not always the case, right? When you're doing direct-to-seller marketing, a lot of your time, especially in the beginning, is going to be directed towards that. And there's going to be areas and markets that you may not have anyone, and you do need someone's help. Just make sure that the wholesaler you're working with are either reputable, you see how you like how they do business, and you see that they're not wasting your time. I wouldn't put a property on the contract with exclusive rights to market with a wholesaler unless they're like a big disposition company like New Western. So eventually, like I said, we went on the contract, everything worked out, everything's great. The problem was that we went on the contract a week before Christmas, and the seller needed to close by December 27th. So we're talking about closing right after Christmas. Here's one thing I'll tell you: what happens when you close right after Christmas is that no one wants to work. This includes lender, title company, all that stuff. And in this situation, we got really lucky with the title company. It's someone I've worked with before a lot of times, and they were awesome. They were on top of it, but they were off the 24th or 25th, of course, right? Everyone is off. But that's the problem, right? When you're supposed to be closing the 27th, if you have that week to make sure that you solve any issues, if any issues comes up, you pretty much don't have 5 days to solve an issue. You have 3. And that's a big problem with closing during Christmas time. So overall, right, we went ahead and we proceeded with the closing. Everything was well. And the week before closing, I hear from the title company. So the Friday before the Friday of closing, they say, hey, we have an issue with the lender. They're giving us complications because of the title. So what I decided to do, and that's the next lesson that we all have to learn here, I decided to be proactive. What I did is I didn't wait for the buyer to solve the issue. What I did is that I actually started talking to lenders that I know that can close quick. And that's John, who's been on this channel, who does great work. And I spoke to him. He said, hey, I can probably close in about 10 days, you know, if this deal needs to be recovered. The problem was that even if it's 10 days, it's still not fast enough for what we're trying to do, right? We need something to close in less than 7 days. But, you know, he said we could give it a shot, so there was a chance. But I was being proactive. I provided the information of the buyer to John. They communicated. They tried to convince him, hey, we can be your backup option. Long story short, that didn't work out. But what happened was that we eventually figured out the issue with the lender. The title company did, and, you know, we were able to figure it out. Next situation comes. Now the lender is saying they're not okay with the assignment fee being split between me and the other wholesaler and a bunch of other stuff. I felt like it was an issue after issue after issue. There was like 3 issues in a row that happened. And one thing I will tell you is that be prepared. The deal is not closed until it's closed. Until you have a check in your hand that the deal has been closed, it's not closed. And that's something you just need to remember, because the way that this business works, anything can happen the last moment. You know, whatever you have to do to bring the deal to the finish line, you have to do it. You have to understand that, hey, the buyer can fall off, the lender can fall off, the title company can drop the ball, anything can happen. The seller can try to walk away from the table, which is also very annoying. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, right? And it was the day after Christmas that I was figuring this all out. It was not fun. I'll be honest with you, it was not fun. You know, it is what it is. I had to do what I had to do. And obviously, since I'm making this video, we were able to close on that deal, and I was able to make $10,000 off that wholesale deal, which I was happy with. It's a good wholesale fee, and, you know, obviously I'm very satisfied. But the biggest satisfaction from this deal actually came not from the money. It came from the ability to solve all the issues. From the seller having to deal with other wholesalers, so they were so skeptical from the beginning, from having to drop the price, from having no buyers, from having anyone not even providing an offer on this property, to then lender issues. Like, I felt like this property had so many things go wrong. I was like, is this property not meant to close? But I understand now that God was not only tested me to see how much I wanted to make sure that this deal closes, but he is also teaching me a lot of things. This was absolutely awesome teaching lesson. A lot of things have been learned. Will I say this is the hardest deal I've ever closed? Absolutely not, but I can put it in top 10 for sure. It was definitely a lot of issues. Probably being around Christmas didn't help. I do really try to keep it real on this channel, because a lot of gurus and wholesalers make this business seem so easy and so simple that you can just call one person, get $10,000, and it's the best day in your life, right? And that's the problem, right? I hate it. I hate that. I think that you need to know that this business is absolutely real. You can make a lot of money in this business, but you're gonna have to put in a lot of work, and you have to accept that. If you're not willing to put in the work, you may not make it. You may close a deal or two, but I don't expect you to make it long term. If you guys do enjoy this kind of content, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm putting out a lot more vlog type of content nowadays, because I feel like you guys get to see my everyday life. By the way, behind me I have some chairs. It's because we are doing staging for my girlfriend's listing. She got a listing as an agent, and we're helping the seller to stage the property. A long story, but yeah, that's why there's craziness going on behind me. Leave a comment down below if you have any other questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.